Robert Plank Show, Episode 55, Time Management Hacks. Install these quick computer programs today to get yourself over the hump, complete all your projects, and have more fun. Welcome back to the Robert Plank Show. This is the podcast where we talk about everything Robert Plank. I'm Robert Plank's #1 fan. I'm the president of the Robert Plank Fan Club, and I just am obsessed with everything that there is Robert Plank to the point where I have legally changed my name to the name Robert Plank. Okay, I'm just kidding. My name actually is Robert Plank, and the Robert Plank Show is an internet podcast all about internet marketing and your online business and making money from home by doing these things like creating information products, membership sites, and running webinars. And when we are our own boss and we don't have anyone to answer to and we possibly can't really get fired, it's easy to fall back into old habits of just plain old goofing off. It's easy to fall back into the habit of filling up time, because when you worked at that day job, which we all, I'm assuming that you have at some point, or maybe you do right now when you're trying to quit, but whatever's going on is that usually when you go to this thing called a day job, you're supposed to fill up 8 hours of time. And it doesn't matter if you work super fast or super slow. At most day jobs, you get paid the same hourly rate or the same yearly salary, no matter how many things you get done. And there's always more things to get done. So you probably realize pretty quickly that when you worked at this thing called a day job, if you got everything done and everything out of the way, there would just be more things for you to do. As opposed to if you took your time, procrastinated, and just waited and kind of padded out the things you had done, you would get paid the same amount of money for doing 20% of the work. And so that's a great mindset to be in when you're an employee, when you're making someone else money. But when you're in business for yourself, well, that's not really going to cut it. And that doesn't mean you have to be a workaholic and work 20 hours a day and outsource things to 10 employees or things like that. But there's a different kind of mindset in being your own boss and someone else being your boss. And the problem is with most people who work for themselves, most self-employed entrepreneurs, they actually would be fired if they were in a job kind of situation. I mean, if you were hired to blog for someone and you were hired to just make one blog post per day and you got fired if you didn't complete that one blog post per day, that's pretty cut and dry. But when we're in business for ourselves, we think that we're the visionary, right? We're the CEO and we are in charge of coming up with all these crazy ideas and moving things around and being the dreamer and registering domain names and getting graphics made and sending out websites and tinkering and researching and getting an education, as they say, which means that every day you go and buy the next $50 product. And that'll get you somewhere for a while, but at some point it's time to graduate from being educated and actually go out there and make money and actually put out your own membership site and your information products. And so today we're going to be talking about how to get most of the clutter and all the crap out of the way. And I'm Robert Plank, the author of a book called 100 Time Savers, which you can grab right now on Amazon at 100timesavers.com/book. And really, if you look at your typical day, your day doesn't need any more of you working hard. If you need to free up time in your day, you don't have to push yourself further. Usually, you just have to remove the things in your day that aren't working. And so when we talk about things like productivity, there's a couple ways we can go, right? Usually, if you look at blog posts or listen to podcasts about productivity, they get into these crazy schemes of literally everything in your life is outsourced, right? Like your dating life is outsourced, and someone comes over to your house and cleans all your stuff, and you use a tool called TaskRabbit. So if you need to go over to the grocery store, you just push a button and someone goes out there and brings you milk and you pay them money. Or there's this one guy who teaches productivity, and I guess he pays someone just to refill the quarters in his car to feed the parking meter, called the quarter fairy. So literally he just pays this person a monthly fee, and this person has a key to his car, and this person just comes over into his car and unlocks his car in the middle of the night and puts a new roll of quarters in his glove compartment of his car, so that way he always has enough quarters to park with the parking meter on the street. Now that sounds like a cool little story, but as far as you personally putting that into practical use, that just sounds kind of crazy and kind of weird. And when a lot of people talk about productivity and getting things done, what's really sad is a lot of them the productivity part has just taken over to the point where they teach productivity, but as far as what you look at, what they actually do day to day, you can't figure out anything they do other than teach more productivity. And a lot of these people who have books and systems about how to be more productive, well, they're just glorified to-do lists, okay? And the problem with having a to-do list is that you have this big long list of things you need to get done, and then you get maybe one or two crossed off, and you think of 10 more things to add. And the to-do list keeps growing and growing and growing. And then the other problem is that, well, either you go down the to-do list in the order in which you thought of things, which means that by the time the to-do list actually grows, you're knocking out tasks that are a year old or 6 months old, and the things that are important now are at the bottom of the list. But then if you say, okay, I'm going to go and do the easiest and most fun tasks first, then you end up doing a lot of quick fun things that don't really get you anywhere, that don't really make you any money, that don't really get you finishing anything. It's just little bits and pieces like checking out emails, checking out Twitter, and then you just become a checker and you don't really become a doer or a finisher. And then the other problem too is if you try something in between those two extremes, you end up organizing your to-do list, and you end up having a to-do list with a table of contents to find the page 8 in the to-do list. To jump to page 10 in the to-do list, you end up with this huge just monster. And any way you slice it, if you try to organize your to-do list into quadrants and prioritize your to-do list, it just becomes this big long thing that just grows and grows, and you never have an empty to-do list. So then this leads me to going back to the defaults, the gimmies. And if you heard me talk about productivity or read any of my blog posts on robertplank.com about productivity, I always fall back into the same couple of easy things. And don't worry, we're not going to focus on those real easy default kind of gimme productivity hacks, which could be things like don't check your email in the morning, turn off your phone when you're at your computer, complete just 4 things today. And they're the 4 most important things that take you about 45 minutes each. And there could be tons more things that maybe those other things either don't belong in today's list, or they can all be chunked together. Now you can do all your WordPress updates all in one 45-minute task instead of having to go and do it 5 minutes at a time. Having a countdown timer by opening up your browser to online-stopwatch.com, and then if you sit down and say, I only have 10 minutes right now to knock out this blog post, hit the countdown timer, and your brain will start to get trained into this panic mindset of I have to rush and do something before the countdown timer hits 0. Another thing that's really helped me is if I am procrastinating getting something done, such as maybe writing a sales letter or sending out joint venture emails or something, I will use a program called Camtasia. And by the way, everyone should have this program, but it's a program that allows you to record what's on your computer screen. It turns what you're doing on your screen into a video, and then you can also speak on top of it. And guess what? If you record yourself doing something for some reason, it gets you to really buckle down and close all the other windows that don't matter. Another final thing about the gimmies that we're not going to cover today is this thing called a Google Calendar, which you have if you already have a Gmail account. And if not, you can get a free one by going to google.com/calendar and block out, not too many things, but block out the most important meetings you have going on. And the cool thing about Google Calendar is you can synchronize it to your iPhone, your iPad, and share it with other people. It pops up when that appointment's coming up. It shoots you an email when an appointment's coming up, and it's been the best way out of all the crazy, day planners and apps and things. Google Calendar is the best because it synchronizes to all these different things. So, productivity-wise, we don't want to get into stuff like the quarter fairy, to-do lists, crazy notebooks, or even the simple stuff like 4 daily tasks. I want to give you some cutting-edge computer programs that just by installing them on your computer will free up maybe a minute here, a minute there. But what if, of the things I'm going to share with you today, what if each of these computer programs saved you just 5 minutes a day? And what if I share with you maybe if I can think of 10 computer programs to use for this? Well, guess what? That's an hour per day you've freed up. Now that's 5 to 7 hours per week that you've saved, and now that's 30 hours per month, and now that's hundreds of hours every year. Now that's almost the equivalent of a whole week you might have saved up just by installing a few of these things. So what the heck are they? Well, let me list a couple of these, and I have a few ready to tell you, but a few others that are just going to come to me. So first of all, as far as the things you should have installed in your computer, let's just get a couple of those out of the way. I'm going to combine a bunch into this very first one, just programs you should have installed just as any kind of an internet marketer. And being an internet marketer doesn't mean you have to teach internet marketing, doesn't mean you teach make money online. You can be a person who has a piano playing membership site, and guess what? You market on the internet. You are an internet marketer, whether you realize it or not. So as far as computer programs and tools that I like to use, I use a tool called Camtasia, like I just said, right? Camtasia, and in fact, that's what I even use to record my podcast, just because I like its recovering ability. So I can just click a button, record a video, and save just the audio portion, and now use the audio for whatever I want, such as a podcast. The cool thing about Camtasia also is that you can record tutorials or helper videos for yourself. So if there's something that I need to do computer-wise and I don't want to forget how to do it, you know what I do? I record it using Camtasia on my screen and I post it to YouTube. And you can even check out my YouTube channel at youtube.com/PHP Roberts. And that's PHP ROBERT. And the cool thing about that YouTube channel is that I've even recorded a few videos, such as one is how to convert a WAV audio file to an MP3 file in one click. And that's something that I need to do a lot of the time. And every time I do it, it adds about a minute or two because I have to open it up in a certain program, go and save it, go and browse wherever it's going to save it, go and set the MP3 bitrate if you know what that is. But instead, I figured out a way to just one-click shortcut it, and I have to install a program and edit a few things in the Windows registry. But instead of having that scrawled on a scrap of paper, I just put it on YouTube, and then now I can go and find it any place I want. I also have a video on how to convert any graphics file into a JPEG thumbnail and also resize it. This is a task I also do many different times when I record a video and upload it to my membership site and then have to resize it so that there's a small little icon to click on. Someone clicks on it and then the full size video pops up. So these are both on my YouTube channel and I recorded them for my own personal benefit, but then others can watch them. So if there are things that you notice that you need to remember, like maybe uploading a book to CreateSpace, creating a new blog post, or whatever it is, well, how about you just record it and make it step-by-step simple so that you yourself and others can use it. So Camtasia, we use GoToWebinar for our live webinars. And then for most other things, come to think about it, so we've got Camtasia and we've got GoToWebinar, and most other things other than maybe like, I don't know, Microsoft Word and Dropbox, most other things are taken care of in a tool called WordPress. Okay, everything that we do with our websites these days is using a tool called WordPress. I can't even remember the last time I edited a plain old HTML page. So on WordPress, what we do is we use a tool called Paper Template to create what you'd call a landing page, to create a sales letter, an opt-in page, a download page, an upsell page, a thank you page, a webinar registration page, a webinar replay page. These are all taken care of using WordPress and Paper Template. And then we use a plugin called Member Genius to take payments, and we use that along with a service called PayPal. So we use Paper Template to sell things, to have sales letters, and Member Genius to have our members area, and then we use another time-saving tool called Backup Creator. And by the way, these are all my plugins, which you can get at papertemplate.com, membergenius.com, backupcreator.com. And if you want to get all those together, just join incomemachine.com and you get all those in one package. So Backup Creator is cool because you can back up your WordPress site in case something happens to it. But if you back up your WordPress site and restore it somewhere else, you've cloned or copied that exact site, which you can use over and over again. So as far as must-have internet marketing tools, it's pretty much Camtasia, GoToWebinar, and WordPress, and maybe Adobe Photoshop, but even then there's an online version called Pixlr where you can do most of your graphics editing. And so most of those things are just taken care of right there as far as Camtasia, GoToWebinar, and WordPress. So I guess I'm going to jump right in here and get to something that's a little might be a little bit over some of your guys' heads, but once you can master the skill, it's actually very helpful for you. There's a program most people don't know about that I was actually looking for years and years, and I came close to almost making it myself until I realized that it existed, and it's called GoodSync. GOODSYNC. It's created by the creators of Roboform, if you know what that is, which we'll get to in a second. But GoodSync is a program that allows you to synchronize folders on your computer with FTP websites or our Dropbox folders or Amazon S3 buckets. Okay, and so what that means is, well, if you've ever let's say if you've ever recorded a video, right? And what do you have to do when you record a video? And if you're putting it into a paid members area or something, well, you have to record that video, okay? Then you have to edit the video, maybe clip off the edges and add some music or something. Then you need to produce the video and save it to a folder on your computer. And then what? Well, in order to get it on the internet, you have to go and open up your FTP program, such as FileZilla, and then you have to drag the folder over and wait for it to upload. And then it's finally on your website, and then you probably go and edit a web page or create a web page, or in a paper template you can just click a button and drop a video onto that web page. And so there's all these different steps you have to undergo in order to put a video on your website, right? Or let's say you have to upload a bunch of different videos, you have to go and open up your FTP program and wait for all these files to transfer. So the cool thing about GoodSync is that I've set a few of my folders, not all, not a ton, but a few of my folders to automatically upload to a specific folder on my website when the folder on my computer gets a new file, if that makes sense. And so we run membership sites. One is called webinarcrusher.com and one is called doubleagentmarketing.com. And as part of both of these sites, which you can join today, we meet once per month. Okay, and I forget. Usually it's like, I don't know, like the first Thursday or the second Thursday, and sometimes we move it around, but it's pretty much at roughly the same part of the month. Okay, and we meet for exactly 1 hour, maybe a little longer, but we meet for an hour. And my business partner, Lance Thomas, and I talk about how our business has changed in the past 30 days, or what people should be avoiding or doing. And we also answer live questions as part of these membership sites. So it's a lot of fun. We just go and show up for an hour, talk about the things we were going to talk about anyway, and then we're done. But then it comes time to do the dreaded replay, right? And by the way, if you've ever run a live webinar, you have to do the dreaded replay, right? It's like, all right, first I'm going to do my training, and then I'll wait a day because I just got to rest, right? And then I'll open up the file, the video, and I have to wait for it to all open, so I'll come back to that later. And then I have to go and edit it and add music, and maybe I'll listen to it again to see if I get any ums or ahs. And once again, you're back in this trouble if it takes you all day to put one single video online. So we run our question and answer call on Webinar Crusher and on Double Agent Marketing. Usually we do those on the same day, and then I just go and quickly edit those two video files. And then what happens? Well, I have this program called GoodSync monitoring a folder on my hard drive that's named Double Agent Marketing. And if a new video file ends up in that folder, it uploads it to the Double Agent Marketing site. And I have GoodSync also monitoring a special folder on my hard drive called Webinar Crusher. And when a new video or a new file of any kind appears in that Webinar Crusher folder, then it logs into FTP as well and uploads to webinarcrusher.com in a special folder that same file or video, whatever appears right in there. So what I do is, as soon as we're done with our question and answer call for that month, I quickly chop off the edges, add music, and then produce. I don't do any other thinking other than that. And then as soon as those video files produce in the program called Camtasia, the program called GoodSync churns away and uploads those. And by the time I'm even done clicking around, I can just go and click a final button and embed the video or put the video on the web page in the members area. So I mean, think about that. If you run any kind of webinar training regularly, if you run any kind of a multi-week webinar class, or if you happen to run pitch webinars every week and you notice that, well, you're uploading the replays on the same site, like maybe I upload all my webinar replays to doubleagentmarketing.com in the public area that everyone can see. So I can have a folder just called Double Agent Marketing Public, and then every time that I have a webinar replay, I can just produce it into that folder, and then this program called GoodSync just churns away and automatically puts them into that other folder. And so, I mean, GoodSync has all these crazy features if you want to use them, where it can actually synchronize 2 ways, but I prefer to do what's called a one-way synchronization, which means that it only goes up. It only uploads, it doesn't download. And you can also get even crazier where I guess if you delete a file on your hard drive, it deletes it up on the FTP server. I turn that off. I just have a one-way synchronization. So if I put something into a folder on my hard drive, it will upload it to FTP. And by the way, it has all these other settings for if you want to upload to Amazon S3, Google Drive, Dropbox, all those cool things. But if you want to get crazy, you can. But the way I use this program called GoodSync is just to do a one-way synchronization of my videos for webinars and training that I do regularly to save myself the monotony of using a cPanel file manager or a program such as FileZilla to always open and drag and wait for the files to finish. So GoodSync, that's number 2 as far as programs to get yourself over the hump, complete your projects, and have more fun. Now the next one, hopefully you've got it. I really hope you do. If not, get it. It's called Roboform, and actually we're transitioning into LastPass right now. So I'm not really sure which one to recommend. I guess Roboform, but I kind of use both, and what I use both for is I use Roboform just for my own personal passwords. Okay, so basically when I log into anything, my websites, my Gmail, any of that, I literally don't know what most of those passwords are, and that is because there's a program called Roboform which does a couple things. And if you want to get the one called Roboform Everywhere, and what it does is when you log into your sites, you can click a button and it will remember the password for, say, Gmail or for Yahoo Mail, or if you log into any kind of internet marketing forum, or to Facebook, or to Twitter, and it will remember that forever, and it will encrypt that password and synchronize it up to the cloud. So if you ever need to reinstall your computer, you have your passwords. What's also really freaking cool, which I only discovered a few months ago, is that on iPad, iPhone, and Android, you can actually install an app, and what it does is adds a button in your browser on those devices. And so when you're logging into Facebook or something, you can literally tap one button on your browser, and it will fill in your password even on an iPhone or an iPad device. And so this has a lot of cool little different things to it, because you can have different passwords for different sites, so that way if someone knows one password, they don't have them all. And this way, you don't even know your passwords. It's all remembered for you. And if you change your password in one place, your other devices all remember and sync up to that same password. Now, you might be thinking, well, now anyone can just sit on my computer and do one click and get my password. Well, with Roboform, you do a thing called a master password. So that way, you personally have one password to remember, and that one password unlocks all your passwords. So someone would actually have to be at your computer and know that one single password to get access to everything else. But if they happen to know, say, the password to your Facebook account, that password is different than your master password, if that makes sense. And what's also cool is that using the iPhone app, at least, my iPhone has a fingerprint reader, so I can just use my fingerprint to log into my sites to unlock my other passwords instead of actually typing it in every single time, if that makes sense. So Roboform is what I use for my own sites, and then LastPass is what I also use for shared sites that other people have access to, because LastPass is better for sharing passwords with other people, because other people can have LastPass accounts and then you can share the same password. And what's cool about that too is that if one of you changes the password, then the other person or the rest of the group all have that same password as well, if that makes sense. So start off with Roboform because you can have it save all your passwords, and that way even though a lot of the times you can have your browser save the password, or you can check a box and say, remember, I'm logged in. What are you going to do when you reinstall your computer? Or what will you do when you need to log into that same site from your iPhone? Well, now the Roboform app will all take care of that for you. Okay, so the third thing was Roboform and LastPass. Number 4 is a little bit of a cheat, a little kind of going back to GoodSync a little bit, but most of the time when I produce, well, first of all, okay, so I use Camtasia to produce videos, right? I record videos, edit them, and then also use Camtasia to save them. And then I use a tool called Jing, that's Jing, to capture screenshots. So many times I'll need to grab a part of the screen as a screenshot, either for maybe a tutorial or to send to someone or for customer support, and I will need to send someone that exact picture of my screen. And what I like to do many times is maybe I'll have to text that over to someone, or maybe I'll have to use it in some other kind of app. So many times it's been useful to produce a Camtasia video directly into my Dropbox public folder. So if you're not familiar with Dropbox, I don't even think I mentioned Dropbox yet. So Dropbox is kind of the same idea of GoodSync, right? Where you have a folder on your hard drive, and then it goes and syncs up to the cloud. Okay, and so Dropbox is a little easier to use than everything else. And I mean, I use all the above. I use FTP and Dropbox, but Dropbox is good for synchronizing between your computers, right? Because you don't necessarily want to save all your files up to some FTP website and pull them all from FTP. So Dropbox makes it easy so that if you install Dropbox on your computer and your laptop or something, you can be editing a file on your laptop, save it, go to your computer, and it's the same exact file there. It all gets synchronized. And so the other cool thing about Dropbox is that Dropbox has what's called a public folder. So anything in your public folder, no one can find it, but you can right click on any one of those files and then go grab the public link and then hand that link off to someone. It makes for easy sharing of files, documents, images, videos, stuff like that. It makes it easier to share than FTP or S3. So let's just say that Dropbox is great for your own files and also for sharing. So, and Dropbox is also free up to a point. So use this thing called Dropbox, and what I will do many times is I will produce a video, right? And so like when we record a video, we have the master file, right? The master file that contains like a big giant thing. It contains all of our edits, all of our like the raw recording, right? It's not compressed, it's not sized down for use on the internet. But what I can do is then I can, once I have the video edited the way that I want it, I can produce it into a small compressed file that's ready for the web. And what I do many times is I will produce if I want to share a short video with someone, I will record that short video and produce it directly into my Dropbox public folder. And if you've used Dropbox before, you might have used the public folder, but many times in Dropbox, we'll have a file on our computer and we'll have to drag it over into Dropbox or into our public folder. But what I'm saying is that if you have a quick video to share with someone, don't worry about saving it to your hard drive and then go and drag it into your Dropbox folder. I'm saying when you produce this video and you save it right into that Dropbox public folder to save yourself a step. And that way you can just copy the link right there. The other thing too that's cool about Jing is that you can do the same thing. So this tool called Jing, you go and you take a screenshot of your screen that you want to show somebody, and then you can save it. Okay, and usually, well, you save it to your hard drive. But if you save it to the special Dropbox folder or your Dropbox public folder, then what will happen? Well, it will automatically synchronize or copy this up to the Dropbox cloud, so you can then copy the link to that. So many times, I will either take a screenshot and save it in Dropbox public folder, or produce a video, save it in Dropbox public folder, and then I can easily copy that link into an email. Or if I'm on my phone, I can easily open up the Dropbox app and grab the public link and then text someone the direct link to that graphic or to that video. Or even, I guess, using the Dropbox app, I can save that image to my phone and then text them the exact image right there in the text message. So Dropbox is an easy way, at least for me, to move files around from email and to my phone especially. All right, so that was number 4, Dropbox, and especially producing Camtasia and Jing into Dropbox. Number 5 is Google Sheets. Okay, if you're not familiar yet with Google Docs and Google Sheets, they're doing their best to make the equivalent of Microsoft Office on your web browser. So Google they have Gmail, they have Google Calendar, and then they have this thing called Google Drive. And Google Drive, I don't like to use it as much as Dropbox, but they kind of have their own clone of Dropbox where you can have a special folder on your hard drive, and then it copies it over up to the cloud, which is called Google Drive. But what I usually use Google Drive for is for their word processor and for their spreadsheet program. Okay? So I've talked about Google Docs in the past. The cool thing about Google Docs is that you can easily just type a Word document, and this is good for journaling or documenting the things you do, making checklists, to-do lists, and things like that for you outsourcing tasks to other people. But what's really been helpful as far as coordinating with others is this thing called Google Sheets. So Google Sheets is cool because it's like a Microsoft Excel, Google Spreadsheets, and just like with Google Docs, you can share your documents with others. Other people can either just view, like with Google Sheets, there's a lot of cool different things you can do. You can just edit the Google spreadsheet on your own. You can share the spreadsheet with others with editing privileges so that other people can go and fill in that spreadsheet and you can see who filled in what. You can share that spreadsheet with just viewing privileges, so you can fill in things that need to be done, and then the other people, they just see those rows and get alerted when those things get updated. And what's cool about Google Sheets too is you can even share the Google Sheet with the public. And so you can make it either that the public can see it, so anyone with the link can see that. So that's good if you have different outsourcers and things like that. Or you can share it so that the public can edit it, but only someone who has the link to get to it. So what does this mean? Well, it means that, for example, you could hire someone to monitor your trademark, right? And you can have a checklist and say, what I want you to do is open up this Google Sheet here. And this Google Sheet has columns for the date you noticed this one web page and the URL for the web page that violates our trademark, and then another column for if you've contacted them or what's happened with this. So what you could do is give someone this blank spreadsheet and you just say, search around for my name, search around for my product name, my website name, and I want you to fill the spreadsheet up with the URLs that show up, and then tell me under the notes column if this is a site that I own, if someone's allowed to use a trademark, or if we've contacted them asking them to stop using our trademark or whatever it is. Or maybe you could just use your outsourcer to fill up this spreadsheet and locate all these different sites, and then you could go and yourself go in and contact whoever needs to have these things taken down. But so you can use Google Sheets in this way or in any kind of way. Like I sometimes use these to organize transcripts. I use these to sometimes organize what is installed on which of my websites. So you can have this thing called Google Sheets and just create a spreadsheet with whatever columns you want, and you edit it yourself. Or you can share the spreadsheet with other collaborators so that they can fill in these spreadsheets as well. I mean, just think if you dumped a list of your best customers into a Google Sheet, and then you had a blank column for, and maybe the spreadsheet included everyone's name, the product they bought from you, and their mailing address. And then you had a extra column for, has this person received a thank you card yet? And so you can just share this Google Sheet with someone you hired, and maybe you pay them $1 or $2 per thank you card that they sent out. And maybe you have your local high school kid mail merge them all for you, or your local high school kid hand write a thank you postcard to each and every person. Well, as they sent out each thank you card, they could just check off each person on that Google Sheet, so a couple things could happen. You can monitor that they're actually getting things done, and they can prove it to you. And when that is all filled up, now you can see what you actually paid them for. So now if they sent 200 thank you cards, you say, okay, that was now money well spent. So Google Sheets is one of those little known tools, little known productivity boosters, and it's a lot easier, to be honest, to share a Google Sheet than pass around, say, like an Excel spreadsheet or give someone a list. The cool thing about the Google Sheet is you can see as things are updated as they happen. So the next thing I want to share with you, this might be a little obvious, but it's so obvious most people don't do it. The Bookmarks Bar. So you might have been familiar with bookmarks. Bookmarks are when you have your web browser, say such as Google Chrome, you can bookmark a web page and get to it later on. The problem with most of us is we have hundreds and hundreds of bookmarks and we never even use them. There's folders within other subfolders and things like that. But the thing that I use bookmarks for mostly is this thing called the Bookmarks Bar. And when I'm looking at my web browser right now, and usually what do you have? Well, you have the tab you're in, you have the address bar to type in an address, and just below it, usually, you have a thing called a Bookmarks Bar. And if you don't have a Bookmarks Bar, at least in Google Chrome, there's I don't know what you'd call it, a thing with 3 bars. You click on it, go to Bookmarks, and then make sure Show Bookmarks Bar is enabled. And so what you can do is you can put just like your most used buttons, and I would say I have my most used 10 or 12 websites on this Bookmarks Bar. And I don't actually use any bookmarks for any other purpose. I don't use my folders in Bookmarks. I just use the Bookmarks Bar. I just have these buttons right there in my browser so I can jump to the websites I go to the most, such as PayPal and GoToWebinar. Those are my 2 most used buttons in my Bookmarks Bar. And then, to be honest, well, I do, if I have other things, like I have a folder for my different dashboards. So I have a folder in the Bookmarks Bar that I can use to jump to my autoresponder login, Odesk, that are a customer help desk, my Easy Articles accounts, my Amazon selling account, and things like that, and Fiverr.com, different, and Kindle, and things like that. So I do have, if I have too many buttons, I can group them into folders, but I only have folders for dashboard kind of stuff, products, and then I would say like forums, such as Facebook and things like that. So I only have about 4 folders, but then I have about 4 other buttons for things like PayPal and GoToWebinar that I use on an almost daily basis. Okay, so the other bookmarks buttons that I use on my Bookmarks Bar are also for Gmail, for Google Calendar, and for Google Drive. Okay, so when I look at my web browser, I look at my bookmarks area. Well, my Bookmarks Bar has a button for Gmail, so in one click, I don't have to even open up my bookmarks. There's a button right there for Gmail. There's a button right there for my calendar, and a button right there for my Drive. Okay, and a button right there for my PayPal, and a button right there for my GoToWebinar, and any other thing like managing sites. They're all in just one of 4 subfolders. So it's pretty neatly organized. I don't have a lot of different things I need to jump to, right? So the Bookmarks Bar, I just noticed that I use that a lot better, a lot more than your bookmarks. But make sure that when you set this up, you set up your Google Chrome browser to log you in. Okay, so if you, and I think you have to go in your settings or something, but basically in your Google Chrome settings, you can log into Google, and then that will save all your bookmarks so that once again, later on, if you reformat your computer and have to start from scratch, or even if you install the Chrome browser on your iPad or on your phone or on your Android phone, you can pick up and use those same bookmarks buttons right there. Okay, so number 7 is another kind of little bit of a cheat, but I've noticed too that there are times when I jump to the same Google Drive files over and over again, especially if I'm working on a certain project. Like I might be brainstorming a checklist for a certain course, right? Like if I'm for our course Webinar Crusher, I might be brainstorming a checklist on the things you need to do for every kind of webinar you run. And so I'll need to go and hop back on that a couple times a day, and it's kind of monotonous to open my web browser, click Google Drive, and go and find the document I want. So I noticed that if I have some documents that I'm working on quite a bit this week, like if I have a journal of the different programming changes I make to our plugins, then I can bookmark just that Google document. So that's something that a Word document definitely can't allow you to do. So what I can do is I can just open up the exact Google document I need to jump through multiple times throughout the day and click on the star icon in Chrome to bookmark it, and I make sure to place it right there in the Bookmarks Bar, or maybe even make a folder in the Bookmarks Bar. But now that exact Google document is now just one click away. And then when I'm done always jumping to that Google document, I can just right click and delete it off of my Bookmarks Bar. So the file is still there, but I just don't need to jump to it multiple times a day. So this way we just delete the things off our Bookmarks Bar that we're not using anymore. So that way it's just really clean and neat, and only using the things that we need to jump through multiple times a day. So as we're winding this down, one place that I thought of a few minutes ago, which I mentioned offhandedly, is a site called Fiverr, Fiverr. So this is a great place for if you need to get something really quickly done. And this is going a little closer to that whole overkill mindset, right? Where we talked about some people who teach productivity get all crazy and talk about a website called TaskRabbit, where someone can go and pick up milk from the grocery store, or they can wait in line for you for your next iPhone, or they'll fill up your quarters in your car. But Fiverr is good to not get that crazy, but do some of these online tasks, such as get quick transcripts made, get quick graphics made. I know some people who they even do crazy stuff like if they don't know how to edit a video or they don't have time, you can hire someone on Fiverr to edit a video for you, and you can give them the raw files, and they'll cut the corners off, and they'll add the music, and they'll save it, and they'll do it exactly the same way you want it done every time, just for a small fee. Sometimes $5, sometimes more with the upsells. But Fiverr is great for just getting quick things done. Quick transcripts, quick graphics, quick blog posts, articles, quick traffic stuff, things like that. Fiverr is a great place for that. So let's just say Fiverr.com and move on. And then as we're winding this down, this might be a little unconventional, but you want to make use of your extra time and your drive time. You need time to unwind and relax. And so that's why I've really, in the past couple of years, really come to enjoy podcasts, listening to them, and also using a service called Audible to listen to audiobooks. I've got a lot of so-called reading done just from walking, just from driving in the car, when I normally would just be, listening to the radio or something like that. So Audible.com is really great because I think I pay $15 a month, and I get one free credit per month, and the credits can pile up if you want them to. And I think they have like a $20 option maybe where you can get 2 credits per month, which means about 2 audiobooks. So Audible's great just because, well, an audiobook is, I would say, between like 8 to 20 hours, depending on what kind of book you get. I would recommend getting fiction just to turn off your brain and not always be in marketing mode 100% of the time. But Audible is great for that kind of thing. $15 a month, 1 audiobook per month, and I definitely pay that to be able to have the time to listen to an audiobook every single month, especially because to buy a physical audiobook with CDs is like $50, so you're coming out with a good deal. And podcasts are free, and podcasts are great because most of them are 20 to 40 minutes, and that's where you can get your marketing fix, such as listening to The Robert Plank Show. And as we're winding this down, let me give you the 10th and final productivity hack: back up your stuff. I can't say this enough. Don't spend too much time on it, but put in the couple of seconds to click that backup button. And that means to have your stuff backed up in multiple ways. So that means that when you're backing up your sites, use Backup Creator to back up your WordPress sites. If you have a cPanel site or a dedicated server, go to the backup settings, and in fact, most dedicated servers now have an option to back up off-site to an Amazon S3 bucket. Back up your desktop. So I use a tool called Cloudberry Backup. I think it might be like $30 or $40, but you can run it to just run a backup of all of whatever folders you specify up to Amazon S3, and it'll compare the folders. That way it only uploads the new files that have changed. But it sounds like such a cliche, but eventually you're going to lose a file. And once the file's gone, it's gone, and you're going to wish you would have been able to go back in time and click the button to back it up. So back up your stuff, use Cloudberry Backup, and I use a hard drive from Amazon called a G-Safe, which, to not get too geeky, but it's a special hard drive, I guess like an external little box, and 2 hard drives go inside of it. And when it saves a file, it saves it to both hard drives, right? It mirrors the drive, so to speak. So that way when you save something onto the external drive, you have 2 copies of it. Plus, I have it synchronized using Cloudberry Backup to Amazon S3. And another cool thing is that if you have a slow internet connection, it's a little tough to find in the menus of that program, but there's I think it's called like I'm Amazon IO or something. It's called an Aws Import Export. And actually, it looks like you can do it from the browser. So just Google search Amazon Import Export, and you can pay Amazon. I think I usually paid about $120, but you can actually mail an external hard drive to them. And you tell them, here's the hard drive I'm mailing, here's the bucket in S3 that I want to save it to, and for $120, you can mail them your hard drive. They will plug it in their little, laboratory, copy the files off, and mail it right back to you. And so, I mean, it's one of those things where you can write that off as a business expense, and you need to back up your stuff because you don't want the headache later of having the most important file gone or having all your files gone. I don't even want to think about that. So just make sure your stuff is backed up, and that'll help you productivity-wise in the long run. So productivity hacks. Install these quick computer programs today to get yourself over the hump, complete all your projects, and have more fun. Install Camtasia, GoToWebinar, and WordPress. Use GoodSync to synchronize files such as videos one way to your websites using FTP and Amazon S3 for a backup. Use Roboform and LastPass to keep track of your passwords and secure them all. Use Dropbox to easily share files with others, especially if you save videos and images into Dropbox. Use Google Sheets to collaborate with others. Use your Bookmarks Bar for easy one-click access to your most important shortcuts. Save individual Google Drive and Google Sheets documents in the Bookmarks Bar so you can just jump right to them. Use Fiverr for quick transcripts, graphics, and other outsourcing. Use Audible and podcasts to make use of your drive time and back up your stuff. Use Cloudberry Backup and use Aws Import Export so that Amazon at least has a copy of your hard drive as it is right now. I'm Robert Plank. Enjoy your productivity hacks. Check me out at robertplank.com and email me at robert@robertplank.com if you want to be a guest on the show or if you have a very important pressing question you want us to cover in our Robert Plank Show podcast where we talk about internet marketing and making money. I'm Robert Plank. Have a very productive week and thank you.